this great introduction for you. One thing I said is that I've always looked up to you as a leader because we traveled in the same circles, and I thought you were an amazing speaker. I remember when I had an event, I invited you down to talk in that arena. But let me go back and introduce you to the people, because I had this very eloquent introduction that I don't know if it can be duplicated. So Versandra is one of those leaders who transforms the way you think when you meet her. You might come in thinking that this is what you're going to be, leave the conversation with. But I remember, I don't know if we were standing in a line and you just like blew my mind. I don't even know if you have this. This is when you had the long tail. Do you still have the long tail in your hair? You do? Show the people, yes. The long tail in her hair, and she was just opening my eyes to just different ways to look at life, basically. I mean, it was just a general conversation, but you impacted me in a way that I know you don't know, because I've never, ever told you. But to the world knows her as the founder of the Optimal Living Retreats, with more than 20 years of transformative experience. And that's what I was telling myself, obviously, is that when people come into your space, transformation will happen. And I love that about you. And one of the other things that I absolutely love and is a twin flame about your story and my story is that you are a lived experience leader, and that you use your experience to extend to the community and service and all of the things that you do. And one of the most unique things about her is that she's a dedicated teacher of the art of touch. So you got to go follow her to learn about addressing the epidemic of touch deprivation. And honestly, I know this is not widely known, but I was on Dr. Oz for, I don't know how many years ago. It was before my son was born. He brought me down to New York to talk about just this, how social media puts a wedge and a divide between, we think we know people and we really don't. We're not in a space to really get to know them, to touch them, and people are lonely even though we have so many friends on so it kind of mirrors that. And my best friend at the time lived in Conyers, and I probably lived in, let's say, Henry County. Oh no, I think I lived in Gwinnett County. So I mean, it's not super far. But it had been months and months that we hadn't spoken, or been not spoken, but hadn't been in the same place. And when I read about your art of touch, it reminded me of that episode on Dr. Oz, one of my famous 15 minutes of fame, when they talk about how we really don't, we're really missing that interconnectivity, and people don't realize that they're missing that interconnectivity until they get it. And then they go, oh, that's what's been the problem, huh? So welcome to the stage in the virtual room to Versandra Kennebrew.
Yes.
That's the cheering. I do have a here. I do have a cheering. I have a cheering live. There we go. I have a cheering button. I love the mistakes that I'm making today. Great. All right. So let's just jump in, and I gave them my secondary, version of who you are, but from your lips to their ears, you tell the audience who you are.
Okay. Well, I am super excited that I did have the opportunity to go back and watch some of your past shows. And I know that this is one of the parts of the interview that you love to offer to all of your guests, is this wonderful opportunity to introduce themselves beyond that bio. And thank you for that, because we are so much more than any bio could ever say. But I can say that I am definitely a multifaceted healing artist. And it has been since 1999 since I began this journey as a holistic health professional. And that's after a 20 plus year career in retail, where I was a district sales manager running 22 stores in 3 states across DC, Maryland, and Virginia, So that was before I ever stepped into this next career. So I want to always say that, because some people are like, well, if this is all you've ever done, how can you be such a great leader? And when I think about all of the stores I've opened and closed, and all of the managers and assistant managers and people that I've trained and developed through the years, and I mean the experiences with customers, because one of my very first experiences with one of the superstars that I've heard about on your show a couple of times already is the motivator, Les Brown. I've heard him mentioned a few times, and I met Les Brown for the first time as a retail store manager. One of my regular customers, his home burned down in Washington,
Oh, wow.
D.C. He had a condo, it burned down. He lost everything. And Les brought him into the store. He says, I want you to find this man 7 suits, 7 shirts, 7 ties. And if you got underwear and socks to go with it, put it all together. Here's my American Express card. I got calls to make. And he walked out. But he bought this gentleman, a friend of mine and customer, Mr. King Twitty, a whole new wardrobe after seeing him on the front page of the news. So I've met some amazing people in my life, and then in my career as a massage therapist, energy healer. I've been the practitioner to heads of states, people in politics, musicians, all kinds of cool people. So my life has been filled with lots of wonderful experiences and dynamic people. And I'm just happy about that part. Besides the business and all of that, I've had a wonderful life with some great people.
I agree. My mom always says that you're always at the table with somebody. I know, right? My life is blessed. I want to touch on that. You were just talking about your work in that connection space, and I kind of went through there because this is what makes you one of the most unique guests I've had so far.
Mhm.
And you do powerful work in that connection space. This show is about slowing down long enough to tell the truth about what's happening in your life. And what did you have to confront about yourself when your life forced you to pause?
I tell you, I had to really just acknowledge that all of the challenges that were in my head about myself were not my problems. They were problems of other people. That was the biggest thing I really had to deal with, because I like to get really honest and authentic with people, because you can't really get the lesson that you need to get unless you understand where a person came from. So I like to put it out there that I was born in a mental institution just outside of Detroit, Michigan in the early 1960s. And during that time, it was a normal thing when young women were not following the rules, or if they wore a short skirt or whatever the case may be, you might find yourself in an institution like that because you were
Wow.
not following the rules, if you will. And being a African American woman really could put you in a situation like that. I'm reminded of this movie with Whoopi Goldberg in it that was called Girl Interrupted. And when I
Oh,
saw that
yeah.
movie, I saw so many similarities to what I saw growing up, coming to visit my mother at this institution and learning more about how her life became the way that it was, and why my life was the way that it was. Because when you have a parent that's mentally ill, beyond the illness that you are dealing with, there are all of the people whispering in the background, oh, she's crazy, she's this, she's that, and she might kill you, and a whole bunch of other things. So all of
Wow.
that was a part of my upbringing. So there was always people chattering about something, and she's this, she's that. And as a child, I was ashamed of it. As I got a little bit older, I had to really just face the fact that it wasn't a me issue. It's what people thought about me and the judgment that they were placing on me based on someone else's life. So once I got to a point where this whole life of being this young woman, raised up with that type of beginning, I was back in Detroit, living there and getting sick to my stomach. Every time I drove on the east side of Detroit where I was raised up, I would get sick, and I ended up homeless in a shelter. My life got really bad before I saw the light. And I can't
Mm.
say that I was on a spiritual journey that entire time because, I was raised by my grandmother and she was a missionary. I was a junior missionary. So I had all of the foundations of a young woman who would do community work, all the things that I do today, helping the homeless, feeding the homeless, just social justice, those type of things. That's who I was raised to be. So it was like, okay, you have this foundation, now you lose everything. That people would say you've lost everything, but I say I lost my mind so that I could get a new one. And the new one, the new one is totally different because the perspective from which I see things is unreal to a lot of people. But it's really, a lot of people say I want to be like Jesus in my heart. That's who I am. I just want to be like Jesus. So that means that I see things from that type of lens, and I'm always looking to see the love, see the joy in every experience that I'm in, and just find ways to be a light. That's just where I come from and who I want to be.
Let's talk more about that. Let's dig into that identity
Mm-hmm.
that you are talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because people did identify you as the child of a mother with mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
or even maybe the grandchild of the missionary. You know
Mm-hmm.
how church folks are, like
Yeah.
the holier than thou missionary, right? But before you were who you are now through your what did we call it? Lived experience,
Mm-hmm.
the retreats, the recognitions. Because I told her before the show, it's like, you have letters, you have lots of letters behind your name. I know DTM, but girl, you certified in almost everything. Okay. But who did you have to become in order to break out of that shell? You kind of started talking about that. In order to lead from that place of integrity, who did you have to become?
Well, literally, I had to lose everything, all of who I thought I was, and that is grandma. I was a granddaughter, so yeah, at age 23, I became the parent to two brothers, so I was a
Mm,
mother and didn't have a single child at first. I was a wife three times. you know, I had two miscarriages, so I was wanted to be a mother who lost children. So I was walking around with all kinds of feelings inside
mm,
of me because something inside of me had died.
right.
All of the titles and things that people saw and thought of me, labels they put on me, all of them had to go away. And I spent so much time just really in meditation, in
Hmm.
writing. I did a lot of writing, journal writing. And I would ask the question, who am I? And,
Wow.
I think that that is one of the greatest tasks any human being has in their life, is to discover who am I. And I know that titles are ways that some people can understand that, but for me that just wasn't enough. I only wanted titles to help me to recognize that I've elevated, I've grown, I've accomplished more than what they say that I could, you know. So I worked hard for those things for that purpose, but still I needed to know who I was to the core of my being. And I'm going to tell you something, Yolanda.
Yeah.
When it came to me, I mean, I was at a church one day and I'd been invited. You know, I was sitting there, hadn't been in a church in a while. So I'm like, okay, let me check out my surroundings, what's going on around me. And some things began to come to mind. I wrote them down, and I just kind of do that sometimes and then go back and revisit. But I do remember the words that came to me. And, you know, I would like to share that with you and your audience because I kind of consider it poetry because I never would write these words on my own. And I believe it was just kind of downloaded. But the words
Yeah.
came to me. They said that I am the quintessence of the divine, most perfect of all creation, with power to produce at will seeds that multiply like ripples in an ocean, the personification of I am, beautiful, radiant, absolute, and undeniable. I am love. And when those
Mm.
words came to me, it was like, oh my God, quintessence. What the heck is that? I don't remember ever hearing the word. I'm in the dictionary trying to figure out what is the word. And I'm just really trying to understand where was this coming from. And I remember reading those words to someone, and they were telling me, oh, there's something wrong with you. You think you're God. There's something, somebody needs to get you some help. And I'm like saying,
Oh,
it's
wow.
blasphemy for you to say those words. You are the quintessence of the divine. What makes you think this? And I mean, so much went on during that period in time in my life, whereas the things that were coming to me were not acceptable by other people. So I literally had
Mm.
to get in my own little space and just me and God, let's work this thing out. You let me know who I am today so that I can move forward in that being and that knowing, because I know I will never be who I was before. I knew that. That new mind
Mhm.
let me know that. And so, I mean, here I am years later, and I'm still walking in that path because I saw visions of who, I don't know all the details, but you know how you get this vision and you see like multiple, it's like masses of people. And I'm like, who?
Well, I maybe not me.
Well, I don't know.
I don't.
I don't know. I had this vision. I'm like, well, and I wanted to reach out and stuff, and they were reaching out, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And it later came to me that those were the masses that I would
That
be
you were
touching their
supposed to reach.
lives.
Oh my
And
word. What a powerful moment. But you know what? One thing that we must do in this season, and I'm in this season too, Versandra, that we have to be confident in what is downloaded
Mhm,
into us,
mhm,
right? I created this movement, what I call idea to income, is because I sat on so many things that God has given me.
mhm,
Like I would get the downloads in the middle of the service and all of that and write it down, and then it just collects dust. And the worst is I would see someone else doing it later, right? And I was like, I've been had that idea. And I have so many of those moments. But I also sometimes feel judged for being innovative or thinking outside the box, or me seeing it just like with your vision, and I don't see it the same way you do, or I don't have the same vision, so it's wrong. Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. It was given to me, right? Just like that vision was given to you, and it was so powerful. So I think in this season that is a great reminder that we should embrace what is uniquely and divinely for us to see in no one else.
yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so glad you moved forward. There's a young lady I worked with in Detroit, and she, we came to call it taking it off the shelf, taking it off
Oh,
the shelf.
yes.
And that's
That's good.
because timing is important too. We can't ever beat ourselves up for things not happening exactly when, because when you have these
Oh, Versandra,
ideas,
I'm so bad at that.
yeah,
Like I'm so A type, but this season is really stretching me. Even in that mutual place that we know each other from, like it's really stretching me because I like things like
yeah,
this.
yeah,
And when you have 40 other leaders depending on you, it doesn't always ABC. And
yeah,
sometimes we have to be super creative, but it's so hard.
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's hard. I'm not going to ever say that leadership is easy or even taking your vision off the shelf is easy because that was a part of my vision for 20 years. This is my goal. And when you get there, it's like, I'm a deer in headlights. This is not what I expected. Okay, now let's pivot. Like it took me a minute. I ain't gonna lie. I'm just being transparent. It's just me and you. I'm being transparent. But I love that phrase, take it off the shelf,
Mhm.
because that's where a lot of my ideas sat. And I know that other women, other leaders have done the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely.
What about
That's it.
I
Absolutely.
yeah, what about when we talk about the healing work, but we don't talk about the pressure that
Mhm.
shaped it? Because I'm lightly touching on like getting into a space that I took off the shelf and I was very excited, and then boom, I'm a deer in headlights.
Mhm.
But there is so much lived experience, and we'll be using that phrase because I'm gonna be using that phrase from now on. I love that one. Okay, lived experience that help us lead from a different place, help us break out, or do even things differently,
Yeah.
clarifies our purpose.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about how pressure shaped your journey.
Yes, yes. So as I saw myself being different from the labels and on a different path, what I began to recognize is, and this is something I, say to my clients a lot, if you look in the mirror and you don't like
Mm-hmm.
what you see, do something about it. And so
Mm.
I began doing a lot of retrospection, just really looking and seeing, what is it that maybe I am doing that's contributing to some of the things happening in my life the way that they are. What way of thinking is it that I'm holding on to that maybe I need to let go of? So personal development became a big deal for me, and so I went to
Mhm.
lots and lots of courses and workshops and weekend intensives and all kinds of various personal development trainings in order to basically reframe the way that I was seeing the world, because I also grew up living in poverty. And living in poverty is a mindset that you can take on as a lifestyle or a way of being, but it's not permanent.
Mm.
It is
Mm.
a mindset. And so, as I'm looking for
Wow.
ways to move outside of this way of thinking and being, that I'm not enough, there's not enough, there'll never be enough, and go into this mindset of abundance being all around me, and that there's nothing that I need because God is my source, and there is no unfulfilled needs or desires that I have.
Wow.
Those are all things I had to refresh in my mind and know again, because I do believe that we know these things in our perfect whole and complete state, and we remember these things. We call these members back together and we recall them, and when we do remember them, then we can stand. That was one of the things you asked about for this interview. How do you see, standing up from, instead of sitting down, you stand in your who you are, who you know you're being to be. And that
Good.
is what really and truly happened. And, knowing what God says and who God says I am is important. And then those words that were spoken to me in the midnight hours, sometimes in a daydream, I had to
Mm-hmm.
recall those things. And now it's like, okay, when any situation looks kind of strange or I get off my square, I go right back to, those foundational things that you can never ever push over to the side, because knowing who you are is foundational. And if you can recall that, then you can make it through any situation.
Well, how do you learn to trust your voice when it doesn't look like anyone else's? And I mentioned this. I don't know if they heard me or not, if I was on mute or whatever.
Yeah.
One thing about you is you're so unique in your approach to a couple of different areas, right?
Mhm.
How do you learn to trust that voice or that download or that unction that you get from God when it's time for you to do the things that you need to quote unquote get off the shelf
Yeah.
or manifest and reach those masses? How do you learn to trust your voice when it doesn't look like everybody
You
else's?
know what? You really just have to look at the circumstances and the outcomes that happen. And when you don't trust and you do the opposite of that trusting voice that was speaking to you, then something happens, and it's not going to be really what you want to happen. And so you begin. It's like you get, coming up. I got spankings, and that let me know don't do that again. And so, you get spanking and don't do that again. Even down to when the time is up for a particular task that you've been doing for some time. The organization you're referring to, that became a thing for me to really look at and challenge myself with, because after 10 years of building myself up to a certain level in an organization, it's like, okay, let's do this thing. And then all of the situations around say, no, it's not. No, you're not doing this thing. And so it's like, okay, well, you have to go inside. I love to pray and meditate. The meditation is the part most people miss, because that's when you're being still and listening for God to speak rather than
Mm,
you doing all of the
all
speaking
the
and
talking.
asking.
Yeah.
And, I beg of you, do this for me now. And then you
Please, please,
never,
please.
you never get quiet and just say, what say you? you know, you got to hear what God says. And so, being in stillness, being in quiet, I had to learn how to be quiet. I have a
Wow.
big voice and I speak all.
I don't mind using it either.
I mean, 5'3" and like 100 pounds most of my life. It was like I had to get loud so people could hear me. And I learned to get quiet, get silent, be
Wow.
by myself, turn off the noise. There's so many distractions. Once you learn how to do that, then you start to feel even the little nudges, that guide you in a certain direction. And that's
Hmm.
what you
Hmm.
begin to trust, because you now know the voice and what it sounds like. You know how it feels, because it's not always audible. Sometimes
Right.
what you get is a nudge or a feeling. And when
Hmm.
you get to experience that on a regular basis, then now you can flow. You can flow. And
And let's talk about that because you can't get there unless you be quiet.
yes,
Let's talk about that.
yes,
However that meditation looks for you, right? You need
yeah.
to be quiet so that you can get the instructions. I don't want to skip over what you said because it was so, so, so powerful. And honestly, I had my own journey get into that same place that you said kind of went to the other direction. So you prepared for 10 years to get to a place,
Hmm.
and then boom, it's taken away and you're redirected. and I almost felt like I was going to be redirected as well.
Mhm.
And but God had other plans. But I don't know, just being transparent, if I could have handled it in the grace that I saw you handle. Now you might have kicked, screamed, shouted, and maybe even said some choice words, but you were always super classy and well put together when we saw you in those
Yeah.
spaces. So I want to talk about, just for people who are like me and they have a plan.
Mhm.
My plan was 20 years in the making, right?
Yes.
And if I don't even know what I would have done if I would have turned the other, the directions would have, the path would have changed for me. How did you handle preparing for a decade and the Lord taking you on the, how the Y is in the road, the fork is in the road,
Right.
and you think you going this way and he take you this way?
Mhm.
Talk about that process for you,
Yes,
even
yes.
mentally, emotionally.
Yes. Well, I do believe that everything is in divine order and divine timing always prevails. So, those are just core things that I always keep in my
Right.
mind. But then I also believe in smart goals.
Mm-hmm.
Those things that we do in business and things like that, when we're really looking to stay focused on a thing and making sure that we're choosing the right things to focus on, those type of things. And so I had smart goals for my volunteer work. I had smart goals for my business. And, some people do not merge the two together, but I learned years ago that my life is my business is my life, and I
Mm-hmm.
cannot
Mm-hmm.
separate the two. So that's why I chose a lifestyle business that like I have. But what I got from that during that period of time, when you're talking about that fork in the road, go back to the plan, go back to whatever it was that God made clear to you was the goal. So there were two things that were supposed to happen. I was supposed to move to Africa and learn a
Mm-hmm.
new language and study the history and live with a native community and that kind of stuff. That was big time on my list because I did volunteer in service to America as a result of my Toastmasters journey, because I became a DTM twice. And so each
Mm-hmm.
time there's a DTM project, and one of my projects was poverty alleviation. I was looking to solve this issue, but not just the typical things we do, giving food, giving clothing, that kind of stuff. I wanted to know in more detail what could we do as communities, societies, that type of thing. And so I
Wow.
found AmeriCorps, volunteering service to America. And I did that for a year. And that's when I decided I wanted to go abroad and do the same thing in Africa. So that was on the list. It was supposed to happen in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic came. Everybody knows it rocked everybody's world. And here
Yes,
we
it
are
did.
trying to figure out what to do next. So, when you're in a position, sometimes it's about, well, what can you do? When you have boundaries that's keeping you from doing certain things, like I also had on the list to become I wanted to be an accredited speaker. I had a list. All
Mm-hmm.
my speaking engagements were set. I had dates. I had airline tickets, all kinds of stuff. All of that shut down. So my
Mm.
dad said to me, "Why do you want to help people across the world when I'm right here?"
Oh,
So that blew my mind. So my dad, that was his call for help. I've never heard him say anything like that. So
you know how men
I
are.
listened and I
Yeah.
heard more than just the words. That's when
Yeah.
I learned he had dementia and all the other things that came with
Oh,
that. And I became his full-time caregiver. And so that is what
in
was
that
there.
same season
At the same
that we're
time,
talking about.
all of that was going on. So when you
Wow.
come to that fork in the road, you have to look at not just the situation that's right in front of you. You kind
That's
of have
big.
to take a look around the different points of view and see what's really happening. And so, what I discovered is that this was a time for me to make a choice, because leadership is not just in business. We have to be leaders in our homes, we have to be leaders in ministry. And if I
Mm-hmm.
say that I'm a healing minister, a minister of healing, I need to start at home first. And so I'm
Oh,
so
wow.
grateful that due to the pandemic and all that was going on, I was able to be there full time with my dad, give him massages when he was dying, and bring him back to life, and I'm saying that literally. I mean, he's on his way out and he comes back and he's, you know, baby, thank you. You saved my life. I know for a fact what the holistic therapies can do for a person, especially someone that has cancer and various things going on, and the traditional healthcare system has nothing for them except for wait and
To
see how
alleviate the
long he's
pain.
going to
Yeah.
live and plan accordingly. But he had 5 additional years added to his life based on what I was able to do, because I listened to the words he was saying. I heard him
Mm.
and I said, I can be there for you during this transitional period in your life, and I can make your life easier. I can make you feel in less pain and have more comfort. And that's what I was able to do. So when that decision came, and I looked at everything, I said, okay, this was first, my dad's first. This situation, that's secondary. So that's not,
Mhm.
has anything to do with anything. Then when my dad transitioned in the middle of all of that, because in May, he transitioned. So it was all of that happening at the same time. And then I was able to accept my next project was going abroad and serving in Africa.
Mm.
So,
Finally,
oh
because
my
it was,
goodness.
it's what, 4 years later, right? 4 or 5 years later.
Yes, yes,
That's
it's
what it's
five
supposed to
years
be about.
later. But
Now listen,
hey,
listen. Let me tell you something. How much I love Africa. I've been to Africa only twice, but have plans to go in 2026. What country are
I'm
you
going to
desiring to live in?
Nigeria,
That's amazing because that's where I'm trying to go. Okay,
West
so I will
Africa.
look you up if I
Yes.
get it. I really, I don't know, maybe about 10 or 11 years ago. I'm not sure. Yeah, about 11 years ago. I was able to take a trip with the one, the only Dr. Kelly Lewis. She is amazing. Shout out to her. She took us to Tanzania, and it was both. This is my selfish part. This has nothing to do with the script. I have to ask you. This is my selfish love for Africa. But we went to Tanzania, and we are so uneducated and ignorant about what Africa really is
Yes.
about. I think we see those shows, and there's like bugs in their eyes, and I'm sure they're in somewhere in Africa that exists. But when I went to Africa, it was the age of Puffy, and Jay-Z was really big, and Obama was huge. Okay, and I went to this big city because Tanzania is like New York City. It's like big. It's like a regular metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was like, where is Mother Africa? I was so like, boo. It was so westernized.
Yes.
And so much so. So I did learn how to speak Swahili in that time. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't spoke Swahili. I still call my sisters and my trip mates Dada, but that's about all I got. Okay. Because we were speaking fluent Swahili 11 years ago because we learned how to bargain, like order, things that we would need. Where's the bathroom? How much does it cost?
Right.
We were able to have conversations. And it was so westernized that I went to go get my hair braided, which, by the way, was $12 in US dollars. And young women looked at me because I'm speaking Swahili and I kind of look like I'm Zanzibari. So they wasn't really sure, right? Because the light-skinned women over there is kind of like, they might be from Zanzibar. But they found out quickly when I asked for those braids that I was not from around there.
Oh,
And I was like, where is my motherland experience? But that's why I say shout out to Dr. Kelly. She did take us to a Maasai village. And that was what I was looking for. Like I wanted to be like in the culture, not
yes,
looking at Jay-Z and Puffy and Obama all day because they had them plastered everywhere.
yes,
But it was such a transformative experience to be. And I actually don't know what part of Africa I am. I did get the results before. I don't even remember them. So now this is going to prompt me to go back and look. But because I thought I was Native American because they told me my great grandma was Native American. And guess what? Zero Native American in my family. They even came for me with our background, and my middle name is French and French settlers in Western New York, and she must have been Indian, and she has this picture and she looks Indian, but not even a drop
oh my
of Native
goodness.
American blood. Zero.
Mm, mm, mm.
So I definitely want to know where I'm from and that journey of just experiencing that culture.
Mhm.
We take it for granted. We don't really understand it. And I can't wait. That was my selfish plug for going to Nigeria. I
Yes,
hope my friend with me because he's a bishop over there and he has a big ministry to give back. And I just can't not wait. But my absolute favorite place to go is Zanzibar.
yes,
It's better than any Caribbean destination, and I've been to plenty.
yes.
Um, and so, if you make it now, Nigeria is East Africa, but if you make it across the continent in those 2 years that you are there,
Mhm.
head to head to
I
Zanzibar for
definitely
sure.
will. And you know what? This is also why it's so important as entrepreneurs to be a part of organizations that are globally focused, that's really
Right.
about building bridges. Because while serving as a volunteer leader, we get all of these opportunities to travel and interact with and be mentored by and mentor others that are leaders in other countries. And I just remember that my mentor year before last was from Sierra Leone. And so here
Wow.
we are while I'm building out the largest event I've ever done in the annual conference. I'm engaging with this gentleman across the continent, and we're having these wonderful dialogues about what we're creating for our members and
Mm,
everything. And that also helped me to recall that this is what I wanted to do in this season of my life. I mean, I'm
right.
over 60 now. There's no
Girl, you don't look a day over 40. I just want you to know. She jumped on this camera today. I was like, ma'am, you look awfully fly today. I'm over 60. I can't tell. I can't. Okay, I digress.
yes,
But
yes,
you did say something powerful that networking is paramount.
yes,
And especially when we have the opportunity to, I mean, I'm talking every continent,
yes.
we have connections to
Hmm.
in that organization. And so I am so excited about your next journey. I'm not sure how soon does that journey begin for
I leave
you?
in June. Yeah.
That is less than 6 months from now, or just 6 months from now.
Yes, yes.
That
June
is
11th to be
awesome.
exact.
Wow. That means you got a ticket and
Yes,
everything.
passports,
That
all
is,
of the extra special visas and all of that.
yeah.
And I am just so
How,
excited.
that's what I was going to ask. How does it feel to embrace something that you've always wanted to do and venture? I'm so off script and venture on this journey to the almost unknown. Have you ever been to Nigeria?
No, I have not. I haven't been to Africa at all. I mean, the countries I've been to, we went to the Bahamas and that was a wonderful thing. I've been to, um, well, Hawaii is a different place. I mean, it's still United States, but it looks like it's a way. And I went to
Right.
Japan, and that was beautiful before the big tsunami took it and leveled it almost, and it had to be rebuilt all over again.
Wow.
But Yes, I've been to Canada many times, living in
Mhm.
Detroit, Canada's right over the bridge. So I've been
I'm
to,
from Buffalo, so we used to walk across the
yes,
bridge when we could.
exactly. Exactly. Yes. So yeah, I've had some opportunities to go abroad, but this and just knowing that the cradle of civilization is
Mhm.
Africa. And I said I was over 60, but I'm over 60 in college, working on my associate's degree right now.
It's all right.
And listen, at this time I'm studying, world history, modern civilization, that type of stuff. And you begin to look at what we are taught and what the truth is. And I'm a seeker
Mm.
of truth. I mean, I don't care. We are being taught some of the most ridiculous upside down things, and we have to step outside of some of those terrible teachings and do our own research, study to show yourself approved. And
Listen, people don't like to read these days. They like
yes,
short form videos. But I will tell you, my journey to Africa started in college. And I am also a non traditional student. So shout out to you.
yes,
My parents are both non traditional students. My mom had me when she was young, and she didn't go back to college until she was in her 50s, I think.
yes.
She raised us, got us out the way, and then she was like, you know what? I'm gonna need to get my degree, and she did. She was over 50, so shout out to you for a non-traditional. But my non-traditional college experience included a psychology course that took me to Tanzania, and so
Yes.
that was my first journey. And I've also been to South Africa as well.
Yes.
I haven't been to Johannesburg. I went to Cape Town. So
Mm.
Johannesburg is high on the list to get over there. So hopefully we can connect when we're in Nigeria. It's a big country, but maybe somewhere along the way. I know I will go through Lagos, and there's another place that I will be. But I hope to do that in when once you're settled, I hope to be out there as well. Woo! I love Africa. I could talk about Africa all day.
Yes.
And I want to talk about the. I don't know if we said why you were going to Africa. That's kind of personal, but you did talk about your decades of serving others, and I know you're going to go over there and serve in some way. You just can't help it.
Yes.
Um, and you talk about your servant. We talked about our leadership servant experience that we have together. You
Mhm.
talk about your healing, your advocacy, and at this stage in your life, as you're doing all of these new things and venturing in a non-traditional space and venturing in different, how do you protect who you are becoming when you serve in just so many different aspects?
Well, really just understanding that that service is a huge part of who I am, is a part of my makeup. And I have tried to live life the other way where, things that mattered like money was priority. I've
Mm-hmm.
lived that life before as well. And the lessons that I learned is that cash is not the only currency. I learned that, our wealth is the value that, we bring to humanity and to the world. And when we
Mm,
invest in building that wealth, then we never are broke. We're never poor. We are wealth beyond measure. And so
mm,
it's just really having those core things that are deep knowings that you hold on to. And that's what I end up doing. So even though right now I'm doing this volunteer work and I'm going to be serving, education is still a huge part of what I'm doing even while I'm away, and learning new healing modalities. I want to learn with some of the indigenous people there that are been doing these
mm.
natural healing
Oh, I bet you they're gonna
practices.
have a big wealth of knowledge,
Oh,
right? In that
yes.
space.
I'm going to be sitting at the feet of the elders, and I am going to be learning some things and sharing some things. It's just that exchange that I'm looking forward to. And, I guess that's really how I just stay grounded and rooted in the truth of my being and what my God's plan for me in my life is, staying on that path.
Wow. I can't even imagine being the feet of the elders. That is, this is awe-inspiring. Like, it's just, I'm in awe.
Yes.
Like, I can see it. You know how you were saying, if you see these people, I can see you there.
Yeah.
And I hope that because I mean, Nigeria has internet. So I hope that you do share your journey, your travel through a travel blog or some teachings or
Mhm.
whatever, that we stay connected to you while you're away. Not that you're just away for 27 months and then come back. You may not ever come back. You may not. Once you get over there, I can really see you staying. I absolutely could.
And I
But
do
definitely,
too. I'm glad you see it for me, because the wonderful thing is that I can re enlist and I can choose another country that I want to serve in after that for another tour of duty. And so that's an option.
mm.
I mean, literally, I'm closing out everything here in the United States. I'm not doing no
So there's nothing to come back to if you want it. You would have to start over
starting
anyway,
all
right?
over again, all over again.
Mhm.
And so that's the wonderful thing about when you say you've lost everything. If that's the way you want to tell the story, then losing everything is not the end all be all. Sometimes you
Wow.
have to lose
Ooh.
it in order to get what's really there for you. And so I am so non
Wow.
attached to
Wow.
anything that is not really having me in that place where I know my life, what I'm supposed to be doing every single day. If that's not a part of it, then I can let it go. I can let it go. So yeah,
Ooh,
I'm
you just
excited.
hit me in the pinky toe when you said that. I almost shed a thug tear. Sometimes we got to start over to begin
Yeah.
again, and it's okay to start over and scratch everything. These materialistic things will come and they will
Yes,
go
they will.
just as fast as they come. So starting over is not a dirty word. It's not a dirty
Yes.
phrase.
I call it the
It's not
art
a
of reinventing you. You should be
ooh, I love it.
qualified at that. You should be an artist when it comes down to reinventing yourself, because if you stay the same all of your life, then something is wrong with that picture. You should be growing and
And
expanding.
evolving, right?
Yes. And so that transformation process, is it's a part of the journey. You cannot I don't want to be stuck anywhere in any place in my life and in my mind. So I'm excited about this whole thing.
I want you, I can't believe we've been talking for as long as we have been talking. That went so fast. I enjoy every second of it. But I will let you give your final thoughts to our audience about your leadership, your experience, repositioning, reinventing yourself, whatever you want to do. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, what I would like to leave the audience with is the fact that we are living in a society that is so disconnected at this point in time, more than probably ever in the history of humanity. And a lot of it has to do with, like you spoke about earlier, social media, things like that. But then there's also just all of the things in politics, all of the things that are in just societal things. We put people in these boxes of others. They're different from me, so they're an other. And so we're constantly finding ways to be separate. The truth of the matter is that we are one. No matter what anybody tries to tell you, there's one race, and that's the human race. And if we are a part of God's creation, and we say we were made in the image and likeness of our creator, then that means that we are all made of the same good stuff. And I am just so sick and tired of the systems that create the separation. And I believe it as human beings, we have got to step up and stand up against all of the things that are trying to take away our connection to one another. And
Wow.
especially when it comes down to touch, because touch is essential to our very well being and our existence, our immunity, our cognitive abilities, our developmental, our mindset, all of those things are connected to our ability to have healthy touch or the lack thereof. When we do not have it, it causes problems. We can get sick easier. We end up in these bad situations, with our hormones being imbalanced, things like that. And if nothing else, we can touch ourselves. Come on, y'all. Don't get scared when it comes down to some of the beliefs that we have been taught. I'm one of those people in church all my life. People was, oh, you can't do this because that's a sin. This is a sin. I mean, it was so bad I didn't even want to put lotion on my own body because I didn't want to sin. But I'm just telling you, these are situations and things that are put there not with good intention. We've got to know that it is okay to nurture ourselves, love ourselves, nurture our children, our families, love them, and show it, demonstrate it through these amazing hugs that we give to one another. Animals even do it. But we got to get back to that. That's a part of the basics. That's what I want to leave your audience with, because I don't care if you're in business or whatever your situation is, we need each other to survive. Everybody's heard that song before. I need you, you need me. We're part of God's body, and we have got to reconnect. That's all I got to say. That's my soapbox that I'll be on for the rest of my days, helping people to reconnect.
Now I might have. I don't. I don't know if I missed what you said because I was looking for your website so that I could show it. Child, wait a minute. What did you just say? Now what? Okay, so I don't. Even when I read your bio and stuff, and I know who you are. Like I know her personally, people. Okay, I did not automatically assume what touch meant. Okay. And we're not going to dwell here because this is not part of the show, but I want to clarify that because of my audience is very, very, very church heavy like members. Were you talking about what kind? I don't know if I can ask. Let me think about asking this in a way that's going to be appropriate. Um, hmm. Oh, here's a good way. Intimacy touch is what you was talking about. I just want to clarify, or were you saying like because touch can sound bad, but when you're talking about touch, as I was describing it with Dr. Oz's show, it was just like the human connection, hugs, touch, being in person after COVID, that kind of interhuman connection.
Right.
But what I just heard sounded different. I just want to know if what I heard was intimacy touch or touch human connection. That's all I want to
I'm
know for
talking
right
about both really because,
there. Okay.
I'm also one of those people who reason why I was married 3 times is because I don't believe in sex and not being married. So I got married each time so I could have sex. So I am one of those people
That's a
that,
conversation we don't talk about, Versandra. You might have to come back for that one
hey,
because as a church girl all my life, I this is a conversation we might need to have.
yeah,
I'm actually hosting a retreat in February for single women. It's for all
yeah.
women, but it's really going to be for single women. Nothing, no, nothing broken, nothing lacking, nothing missing for the single woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing it on Valentine's Day purposely
Mm-hmm.
because we need to, and you alluded to this, love ourselves first,
Yes.
okay? And as a church girl, if you will, we do not have intimacy conversations, and we getting off topic, so we're gonna have to bring you back.
Hmm.
But we do not have intimacy conversations even when we get married.
Yes.
So we say we don't want to get married until blah 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 blah, and then we don't have conversations in the church and in the spiritual world that I'm from. And so that's a good, I might have to bring you back
I
to
want
the
to come
retreat.
back. I want to
Yeah,
come
our
back.
sisters retreat is February. I don't know why I'm saying October. Well, Lord, what I supposed to be doing in October? All right. February 13th through the 15th in Peachtree City, Georgia, at the Crown Plaza. We're going to be gathering single women and married women. You are available to come to. And we're going to be talking about all facets of life. So you did help me segue into that. We're going to be talking about finances. We're going to be talking about mental wellness. We're going to be talking about health and physical wellness. Man, we'll be talking all the way down to how to apply some makeup so that you look the part. Sometimes, sometimes we just don't even know little things. So we'll have very, very hands-on. I'm a very hands-on workshop leader. And so I love, even in my position as district director, pull your laptops out. We doing step by step. Let's go. It's a working session. And so I don't want the sisters to come and just feel good that they did not have to sit alone in the house for Valentine's Day weekend watching other people in sappy movies, but I want them to leave with some life practical applications. And so
Mhm.
I think it's a good story, a good topic to talk about, maybe not on this platform, but on that platform. So I'm going to invite you because it's going to be before you go to Africa. So I just wanted to clarify that for my audience, who is heavy religious audience, what she was talking about. She was talking about both.
I'm
Huh?
talking about
She was talking about
both.
both.
Intimacy. That's Reverend or Bishop T.D. Jakes. He says intimacy can be broken down into me see. So when
All
we
right,
learn,
we're gonna bring it back. Nope, we're gonna have to bring it
yep,
back to the
we got to come
platform.
back.
When you want to hear about intimacy, you're gonna have to come to the sisters retreat. That's my formal invitation. I'm gonna send you the
Yes.
dates because it's a conversation we just don't have in the church. We
Yes.
just don't. And I've been saved since I was 18, but I've been in the church all my life, and we just don't have to come. It's taboo. It's taboo, and it's most of our vice in the church. Well, we're gonna get off of that soapbox. We gonna get off of that soapbox. I wanted to ask you a question. You done threw me all the way off for Sandra. Uh, how was I gonna close this show? But that's how I found out I got my next guest for my sister's retreat. That's the Lord does all things well.
Yes.
Okay, let's focus. Sisters Retreat, February 13th through the 15th, Peachtree City, Georgia. You should be there if you want to hear about more about what Versandra talks about in her optimal living. I don't know. Is that what you talk about? Don't go there, but is that what you talk about? Okay, optimal living retreats.
Yes.
All right. So before we wrap, audience, I want to leave you with this. Leadership isn't always built in movement. Sometimes it's built in the moments when life slows you down, when life pivots, like we've been talking about with Versandra, and ask you to tell the truth about what the fork in the road is or where you should be in this moment. This conversation is a reminder that you do not have to rush your becoming, or you don't have to necessarily perform your purpose or abandon yourself to lead well. Here at the Sit Down with Yolonda Jay, we believe in clarity creates sustainability. Identity fuels everything you build. Knowing yourself first is going to make you a better leader in all the spaces that we talked about, in your personal space, in your business space, in your entrepreneurial space. So wherever you are listening and watching from, this is your reminder to take a pause in the things that are happening to you in your moments. Sit still and listen to God, not just talk to him, but allow him to download into you in quiet spaces, and then move forward with intention, because we only came for you to sit down, for you to stand up. Until next time, has been the Sit Down with Yolonda Jay and Versandra Kennebrew, who you don't know what's going to come out her mouth ever. But come see her at the Sisters Retreat in Peachtree City, Valentine's Day weekend. We'll see you soon. Good night.